Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Mr. Wiz here. If you are new to this channel, we build video games. So I have made a lot of videos on MakeCode Arcade. I have a whole series teaching you how to build games in there, just simple games, right? And then I have this new series I've been working on showing extensions and how you can use them to improve your games. So we've been working our way through this recommended list of extensions, and we have gotten all the way down to the bottom. The last video we did was this raycasting one. Next to that is the Makey. I will not be covering that because this is really designed for if you're using the Makey equipment, which I will not be using. So it looks like we're at the end of the list, but here's the cool part about it. This is just the recommended list. Okay, so these are extensions that someone made, that someone at MakeCode Arcade saw and liked and decided to share with you all. And that's why so it might look like we have finished this, but we have not. This is just the recommended list. There are a lot of extensions that are not on this list. Extensions that were created and shared in forums online between programmers to use. And there are some really good ones in there. In fact, some of my favorite extensions are not on this recommended list. So for the rest of this series, I'm going to be covering some of my favorite extensions that you will not find on the main website. Here's the thing about these extra extensions that are not on the recommended list. In order to use them, you have to find the link to them. And then you have to paste that link up here where it says search. Here, let me move my camera so you can see what I'm talking about. So right here where it says search or enter project URL, that's where you would paste the link to the extension that you want to use if it's not on this list, right? So the one we're doing today is the adventure extension. This one was found not by me, but by one of my students. So that's the link, and I will share the link in the description of this video. But the adventure extension is really designed to build text-based games, and we'll talk about that in just a moment. So to access this, you paste the link in there in that search bar. Once you do that, it pops up right here, and I just simply click on it to download the extension like I would any of the others, and now you will see it right there in the toolbox where it says adventure. You're also going to notice that next to it is text sprite. Text sprite is the extension that we've covered already. Text sprites, of course, allows you to put text anywhere on the screen. Since the adventure extension uses text, it uses the text sprite extension. Essentially, the text sprite extension is kind of running in the background. It's part of their code, I'm pretty sure. Okay, so let's get started on this. I'm excited. The adventure extension, like I said, is one that my student showed me. But when he did, I loved it immediately. So if you click on adventure, there's not a lot of blocks here. So let's go ahead and get started with this. The first one is to change coins or also to set coins. It looks like there's a drop-down option. So there's also tickets, candy, potions. So basically, this is almost like a little mini inventory. So these are pre-made objects in your games. As you know, there are already some pre-made variables that we use in the info section. We have score, we have life. So these are pre-made variables that we've used in some of our other games. These are just some additional ones. So if you're building an adventure game, it would make sense that your player might have coins or maybe they have potions. Tickets and candies is kind of weird, but you know, maybe, depending on the situation. So let's say our player starts off with 10 coins and I'm going to do 2 potions. And let's just see what that looks like. So that's kind of cool. The symbol up here, so there's the potion symbol. It kind of covered up the coin symbol. So I guess it can only show one at a time. So when we did the coins, it creates a little symbol there. So that's pretty neat. So depending on what type of game you're making, you could have one of these in there. It's basically just a pre-made variable, right? That shows on the screen and shows an icon to go with it. Pretty simple, but pretty useful. This one changes text color, which we'll talk about in a minute. So the heart of this extension is that it allows you to build text-based games. Some of the earliest computer games, if you go back to, when personal computers were first starting to get popular, if you ever saw the movie War Games, that would be a good example of it. So in some of the old 70s and 80s movies, you see teenagers playing games that are very text-based, where there's a story going on and they have to type in what their player is going to do instead of playing. And that's mainly because computer graphics weren't very good back in the day. So text-based games were extremely popular. This extension is a great way of building a text-based game. So let's go ahead and get started with that. If you go down here, you can have add to text log, and this is essentially what's going to come up on the screen and tell the story. So if I want to start my story, I could put something like, you hear a knock at the door. And then when it plays, just like that, the text appears at the bottom of the screen. And then the story can progress. So I can grab another thing for what happens next. You open the door to find a wizard. So this is how I'm starting my game. Okay? So here's how it plays out. There's the first line. There's the second line. So it's playing them in order. It's kind of scrolling through this. I want you to notice the color here. The old line turned blue and the new line is white. So basically, once it finishes reading something, it changes the color to blue and the current line is white. That's what this block is referring to. So if I didn't like those colors, I could change it. If I wanted the finished one to be red and the current one to be green, I could do something like that if I wanted to, right? So now, as it scrolls through, it changes colors each way. I actually prefer the original colors, though. I like the white and blue. I think it looks good. Okay, then in the adventure section, there's also the one for image. So if I wanted to add a picture to my story, I could. I could create a picture. I could grab one from the gallery. Since I'm talking about a wizard, let me go ahead and grab the one of the dude wearing the pointy hat. Here it is. So we'll pretend that this is the guy at the door in my story. You hear a knock at the door. You open the door to find a wizard. There he is, right? So this is, like I said, very much text-based. It uses the text sprite extension to put the text on the screen and scroll up as you're going through the story. Now, where does the actual playing come into play? You don't need the extension for that part because that code is already built into the other toolboxes. You just need to know how to use them, right? So before we go any farther with this, I want to show you an example. The student that showed this to me, the student who introduced me to this extension, was named Vahan. He made an amazing game with it that he called Dragon Slayer. And we're going to go take a quick peek at his game. Okay, so this is a game built by a sixth grader of mine from last year. His name was Vahan. He introduced me to this extension, and he built an amazing game with it, which he calls Dragon Slayer. So this is his game. There's a little bit of introduction here, made by Vahan. I present to you. And he starts off with an image of a dragon, the text that says Dragon Slayer, and now the story is starting. A game of brain power and role play. Now your journey begins. He's got a picture of a guitar. A traveling minstrel approaches and asks you to join her adventure. Press A to join the fun. Press B to turn and run. So he's giving you options on what you're going to do. This is essentially a pick-your-own-adventure game that he created here. A choose-your-own-adventure game, sorry. All right, so I can either pick A to join the minstrel or B to run away. I'm going to press A to join the minstrel. Great choice. Enjoy your adventure. There's a sword. Oh, so you chose this. Last warning. Do you want to continue? Press A to join the fun. Press B to run. I'm going to press A to join the fun. Great choice. Let's get your sword. Dragon. Okay, you were made for this. Press A to fight the dragon with your sword, or press B to run and hide. I'm going to fight the dragon. Yes, you defeated the dragon. Woohoo. Oh no, this might be the end of us. This is the strongest thing ever made. Press A to give up. Press B to fight it. Let's fight it. No, come on, wake up. And it looks like if I see this message, I have lost the game. Okay, so the game's over, and now there's an ending credits here that he's built. He put a lot of work into this game, and he did an amazing job with it. So let's take a look at the code. So essentially, the way that he created his game, he built it similar to a choose-your-own-adventure game. I don't know if you've ever played those or if you've ever read a choose-your-own-adventure book, but when I was a kid, choose-your-own-adventure books were very popular. The way they worked is you would read the story on the page of the book that would explain what's happening. At the bottom, you'd be given a choice, something to do as the player, as the character in the story. And you would choose an action. Maybe the action was to run away. Maybe the action was to open a door. Maybe the action was to pick up an object in the room. So you'd pick an action, and then behind the choice you made, it would tell you to turn to a certain page. And when you turn to that page, the story would continue. So if you chose to run away, the story would change than if you chose to fight, right? He did the same idea here with his game and his Choose Your Own Adventure game. So if we look at how he built it, I love the way he did it. He used the brown blocks from the adventure extension for the scrolling text. And then he built a bunch of functions. There are a lot of functions in his game. And each function is essentially a different page in the story. So here's quest 7, quest 5, quest 6. So depending on your action, what you chose, it would take you to a new part of the game by running this function. So here's quest 10. I'm not sure exactly how many he has here, but there's a lot. He made a pretty big game. I have not seen all of it because honestly, I'm not very good at his game. I tend to die pretty quick. I will be putting a link to his game in the description so you guys can play it yourself if you want to. I would love to hear how well you do at it. So he's got a lot of quests, 26, 27, maybe it ends at 27. But depending on your actions, it takes you to each page. So at the very beginning of the game, let's go back to the beginning here. If I can find the beginning. All right, here we go. So at the beginning of the game, it introduces you to everything. It introduces the game, and then it runs the quest called Starting Quest, which is right here where you meet your minstrel. So it says, press A to join the fun, press B to turn and run. Then there's a pause until a button is pressed. That's nice. And then it says here, if A button is pressed, it says, great choice, enjoy your adventure. It changes the coins by 5. And then it runs the function called Quest 2. Or else, so that means if you press any other buttons, in this case, that kind of makes sense because your choices are A or B. So if you press A, it does this. If you press anything else, it does this. The text says, your bad luck has finally got you. You lose 1 life, and then it runs quest number 3. So depending on your options here, but depending on your choice, it will run either the function called Quest 2 or the function called Quest 3. Very cool setup. He used logic, he used conditions, he used button presses. Very, very cool setup. So if you wanted to build an adventure game like this, where you have 2 choices, and they can pick either this choice or this choice, this would be a great way to do it. I want to show you guys another way, though. So in some of the early text games that we were talking about, instead of having 2 choices like this, you could actually type in what you wanted to do. You could actually type your own choice in there, and then it would respond accordingly. That is more complicated, and it is a little bit harder to code, but it's a lot of fun. So I want to show you guys the alternative here. So the code in front of me is Vahan's original code, but this is a copy of his program, so I'm going to make some changes to it for the sake of this video. The changes that I make to his program will not affect the original game, so the link that I'm going to be sharing with you guys will not have the changes that I'm making, okay? But let's say that I wanted to change this game. Instead of doing press A or press B, I wanted to have the player type in their own response. Here's how I would do that. I would create a variable. Here, let's make a new variable. I would go to create a variable called answer. And I only need to make one of these because every time you ask the question, the answer is going to be replaced by your new answer. So I'm creating a variable called answer, and I'm going to put it in here. And instead of using these 2 blocks, which I'm going to delete in a second, I'm going to grab I think it's in game. Yes, here we go. So in game, there's a section here that says prompts, and it has ask for number, ask for a string. When we're talking about text, we're always talking about string. That string is the term we use in coding to refer to words or sentences, text stuff. So I'm going to grab this ask for string, and I'm going to put it in the variable here. And then I'm going to type in the prompt for the player before they type, right? So the way I word this is probably going to be important because it's going to kind of guide the player a little bit. I want the player to choose either join the fun or turn and run. So I'll actually ask the question that way. Would you like to join the fun or turn and run? Now I'm going to delete these 2 because I don't need these anymore. And in here, where instead of having if A button is pressed, I'm going to replace that. And I'm going to go down here to the section that says text. In here, there are a couple conditions. This one says blank includes blank, right? And these are both text options. So I'm going to put that in there. This is a little bit advanced. If I'm losing you, it's okay to pause and rewind and go back. So basically, I'm going to be asking the question. And here, let me just show you what that looks like before we get into the rest of it, so you can see where I'm at. So it's going to do the beginning of the game here, and then it's going to show the question, and the player will type in an answer, right? So here's the minstrel. And then it says, would you like to join the fun or turn and run? So I would type in my answer. I might say join. And then if I do this, I want the game to do something, right? So that's where we're at in the code right now. Let's go back. I did notice that this pause didn't work very well, though. So let's get rid of that pause, and I'm going to replace it with a different pause so I can actually set a time on it. Essentially, I want them to have time to read this before the question takes over the screen, right? So I'll give them 1 second to read what they need to read, and then it will ask the question. Hopefully that'll be enough time. If it's not enough time, I'll make it longer. Okay, so down here in the logic, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the variable answer right here. So it's asking the question, would you like to join the fun or turn and run? The player can type in whatever answer they want to type in. And whatever they type in, that gets saved as the variable answer. So here I'm saying if that variable, if their answer includes, and now I just type whatever word I'm looking for. So if their answer includes join, then this is what I want to happen. And then if they type in something that does not include join, so anything else, it will do this, right? Now, as the programmer, I need to think about, is there any other way that they might word this? Is join the only way they will word this? Would you like to join the fun or turn and run? I think join is probably, in almost any answer they use, they're probably going to use the word join. So as long as their answer includes the word join, this should work correctly. All right, let's test it. All right, it's going through the intro here. Here we go. Traveling minstrel approaches and asks you to join her adventure. Would you like to join the fun or turn and run? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to type in join. Use a space here. I'm going to put join her. So this is an honest answer that somebody might put for the game, right? And since it includes the word join, it will trigger the correct response. So I'm going to hit OK. Great choice. Enjoy your adventure. See how cool that was? Now, if there was a chance that they might use some other words, keep in mind in the logic section, you always have the or block, right? So if I was afraid of some other word that they might use, maybe they might use the word join or they might use the word fun. Maybe I want it to give the same answer for both of those, right? Since I did ask, would you like to join the fun? I might decide, just to be safe, to put if their answer includes join or if their answer includes fun. So any answers they give that include the words join or fun will trigger this action. But if they give an answer that does not include those words, it'll trigger this action. Make sense? So these are just some fun ways you can use this adventure game, or I'm sorry, this adventure extension to build your own story-based game, your own text-based, choose your own adventure style game. So not really anything else I need to say about this because the extension is rather small. Oh, there is one block we didn't talk about, clear the text log. If for some reason you wanted all the text on the screen to disappear, you can always do that, right? So maybe when they go to a new scene, you don't want the old text to still be there. You could clear it if you want to. That's pretty self-explanatory. So that's all there is to it, guys. I would love, love, love to see what you guys make. If you decide to build your own choose your own adventure game or story-based game like this that is text-based, please share it with me. Hit that share button right there, copy the link, put it in the comments so I can check out your game. And I would definitely recommend you check out Vahan's game, which will be linked in the comments. In the description of this video. All right. If you learned something new today, click that like button. If you're not already subscribed, please subscribe. And I'll catch you guys next time as we continue going over more extensions that you can use to build awesome games here in MakeCode Arcade. All right, I'll see you then.